Well, good morning. Happy Friday.
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Here we are.
Good to be back.
Good to be back. Sounds like we had really productive working days. And at your request, we are happy to kick off with financials this morning and talk through some costing for proposals. As discussed last week, we've got Justin Erickson from our budget team. And I think Stacy and I are going to look at him a lot as you all ask questions.
We're gonna be doing the same.
Yeah, exactly. We are all,
This is the
Justin's Super Bowl. This
Yeah.
is your day.
This is my day.
This is your day. We did share some information, which I know you all had a chance to look through. Very happy to start wherever you would like to. Justin mentioned it might be helpful to explain a little bit of the methodology. I think Cam, Ryan, you all might be interested in that. So if that would be helpful, we're happy to kick off with kind of like what are the assumptions and what are kind of the factors that go into this methodology? Or if you would like to start somewhere else, we're happy to.
I think that would be a great place to start, because that's exactly, our questions are really just kind of based on the information that was put in our resource folder.
Yeah.
So that would work perfectly for us. Justin, would you prefer to kind of go through the whole thing, or for us to be able to kind of pause in the interim and ask some of the questions that we may have?
I'm good either way. So sometimes if there's a question that arises, I know it might be pertinent to talk about it at the moment, but I think where I was planning to start, because I know a few of the proposals, particularly the AEMT, career development, anyone that is off of a base wage, that uses a similar methodology throughout those. So I want to maybe walk through how the system works, right? And then kind of paint that picture, and then maybe go into the individual assumptions that would categorize that each of the proposals, if that works for you all.
That sounds great.
So, yeah. Okay, great. So let's start with the system itself. We use what you might know, Questica. This is our budgeting software. One of the powers of Questica is that it's a position level budgeting software. So what that means is we have essentially profiles for all of our FTEs in the system, right? It's tied to a position, it might be tied to a rank, but more importantly, it's tied as well to an employee. So each year when we're developing the budget, we partner with our HR friends to identify where everybody's salary is at. If you're a general employee, we sync that information from our ERP into our Questica software system. But there are other pieces of information that we want to gather. So HR is able to provide us with specialty teams. They're able to provide us how long has somebody been in a specialty team for. So we're able to take that information from HR and drop it into the system. So if you imagine in a position, we have someone's base wage, we have someone's for fire longevity pay, right? We have, if they're a specialty team member, if there is the rate stabilization fund percentage that's calculated off that. So we have all of the components that are maybe the take home pay pieces. But at the same time, the system is smart enough to say, we know that there are other things that are available besides base wage, right? We have PERSI costs. We have FICA, Medicare. We have healthcare costs, right? All of those things that make up the total rewards package that the city provides. And so each year we're able to work with HR to gather that information. And one of the great things about the system itself is that, particularly for contracts that are governed through labor negotiations, we're able to build steps into that contract or into the forecast based on someone's anniversary date. So imagine you're a probationary firefighter, right? I believe once you reach that first year, you go from probation into firefighter 1, right? So what the system will know to do is, based on the anniversary date, even if that anniversary date takes place halfway through the year, it will automatically promote that person in the system. So the budget is actually a combination of the probationary rate and firefighter 1. Right. And so in year 2, based on the scale, the that contract, we'll continue to promote them all the way up through the system. So we're able to get a good forecast picture as to where that person currently resides. And so one of the nice things about the system is we work closely with HR to create the initial picture of the person, right? But then as we begin to estimate costs on things, a good example might be the specialty team pay, right? We build flat rates in, we talk to HR about what team someone's on, how long they've been in, if it's 0 to 5, 5 to 10, whatever that might be. And that is a variable in the system. So what we're able to do is say, okay, it used to be based on a flat rate amount, right? The system has an option to say, switch it to a percentage based. So we're able to then take a snapshot of what the cost was for the flat rate amount for the forecast, change it to a percent rate, and see what the incremental budget cost is to that proposal. So it's really helpful to be able to kind of mix and match within the system to say, if we're changing specialty team pay, if we're adding an EMT proposal, we can just add in a modifier, what we call a modifier or a variable, add it in, say it's going to be 5% of base wage, apply it to every single person who's a union member, and it calculates the cost all the way through. And then it not only calculates the base wage cost, but it calculates the PERSI costs. It calculates the FICA costs. So it's a pretty strong system for position level budgeting, and particularly for those that are more complex, that are based on labor contracts, guaranteed step increases, et cetera. So that's a high level of how the system tends to operate. And any kind of questions on that? Because I think with that kind of in mind, I think a lot of the proposals that we can talk through kind of flow from that level of understanding. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So I just wrote down a couple things. You mentioned a term that you use, Questica with ERP. What is ERP?
So great question, Jason. So
What is ERP?
what is ERP?
ERP.
So the ERP is the HR system and where we have our accounting, right? So finance and HR.
It's the software.
People asset management.
People asset management.
Yeah.
And so we partner with HR because they're two separate systems.
Mhm.
Questica is one system, Lawson or the ERP is another system, and we pull information from that system.
So Questicas really are like forecasting and modeling. It's just way more sophisticated.
Right.
The Lawson or the ERP is what runs the business every day.
Mhm.
Like that's how paychecks get cut. That's how, right. But the addition of Questica has been kind of a game changer
Yeah.
for us because it allows us to do really
Yeah.
sophisticated modeling.
Yeah.
So that's the difference. Questica is like the sandbox where we play and we model and we see what's going to happen. The actual running the business day to day is back in the ERP or Lawson.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I am the loss.
We were really jealous last negotiation when Questica came up and we
Yeah.
went, you guys have the ability to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And then we, at some point got to kind of utilize through asking questions to be able to kind of get forecasting for us and more
Yeah.
financial information. It's a little more applicable.
Yeah.
Okay, question number 2 that I have. Does Questica have an option, and what do we look at for modeling for proposals that are not based on a timeline? So almost everything that you talked about initially with Questica was based on a timeline. We have multiple proposals, for example, and it gets a little convoluted because of the way we have built the system. But the first few tiers in our base wage chart are based specifically on timelines.
Yes.
Then we go into the new proposal for the senior firefighter that includes step raises, and step raises are not done on a timeline. They are attached to the best term I could use as a task.
Task.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
And so then that task is different for every single person.
Yeah.
And on top of the task being a different timeline, if you will, for every single person. Not everybody goes through and does the
Yeah,
task.
absolutely.
It's
Um,
behavior
yeah,
and what
yeah.
they want to do with
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Right.
It's a great question. And it's something that in any forecasting exercise, you have to make assumptions,
Mhm.
right? And so partnering, I talked to Romy about this before he parted ways to Costa Rica. But what we're assuming is about a year to step from. So in the example of a senior firefighter, right? You have now 3 steps.
Yeah.
Right. So 1 year from step 1, 2, 1 year from step 2 to step 3. Because he had indicated that someone could and I could realistically complete the task within 1 year. And so we have to be, if someone can complete it in that year, we want to make sure that we're capturing what could take place.
Mhm.
Now, let's say someone does not complete that task within the year. When we go back and we create the budget the next year, we would see that that person is still at step 1, right? Maybe they didn't move to step 2. And so we reset the budget down to that. But then again, in year 2, in the forecast,
We assume.
we assume that individual will move again. They'll just keep delaying that movement up.
The forecast is always assuming worst case scenario. And
Financially. Financially, yeah. We don't know.
Conservative financial estimate.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, because we don't know in any given year who will
Yeah.
participate in that program.
Yeah.
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 There's so
Worst case, it's best case because they're progressing like we want them to, right?
I think in part of that for costing as well, and we can potentially wait until we get a caucus break to see if there's anyone on your team that kind of feels the same way here, but we are going to be capped and limited on not everybody's going to be able to do this because the task book, while it is 1 step, that is a process that somebody has the ability to functionally kind of do on their own timeline and at their own steps. The second part of that, which is an officer's academy, is limited on the amount of people we can actually put through an academy in a given year. So, for example, our officer's academy is roughly 3 weeks long and has a pretty much a max capacity of 20 people per year. So a couple of things I think would apply here. If we get a backlog of individuals that we're saying these individuals, did not go through the process, that's going to create a bottleneck because the next year we're assuming that a certain number of people go through it based on that. And now we have people that didn't go through it that we're not able to get everybody through it. So I don't know how we could kind of put that into some of the modeling to try to give some of those assumptions as well to try to get an act. And that's our goal here. That's all we're trying to do
Yeah.
is trying to get all of us on the same page, which with what we think is an accurate modeling for costing purposes. Because if our goal is to get there and we're able to get there, then I think the proposals have a lot more concrete kind of numbers, if you will, associated with them or value associated with them, because we've got to a point where we think the costing is relatively accurate. And then I think it becomes an easier conversation, if you will, because we go, okay, here's the costing that we pretty much all agree we're close on. We've talked a couple times of we're also never going to get it right. I mean, we're making assumptions, right? Because of those assumptions, it's impossible for us to get it right. So it's going to be valuable for us to kind of agree, here's where we think we are on a very accurate representation of modeling to then be able to move forward into those conversations of kind of the negotiation, what I would consider more of the negotiation process of agreeing on proposals or not.
And I so appreciate that. I think we're at rough order of magnitude in our discussions, right? Like this is the most conservative case, right? It's kind of like, and then I think that helps us then get into the proposals and figure out like, okay, like that's not quite what we thought it was. What we actually meant was this. It's like, oh, okay, we can adjust.
Yeah.
So that was what I was anticipating was like,
For sure.
take a first swing at it, get a rough order of magnitude, and then really talk about like, okay, if we adjusted this, what would that do? If we adjusted that,
Yes.
operational reality, that's not actually going to happen because of capacity. What does that look like? So yeah, I think we're very interested in that.
Yeah.
As we continue. Yeah.
We need to learn, right? Because you all have a good understanding about what it is, how people would progress through this.
Yeah.
And so maybe one thing I would, as you maybe think through this, the system works off of time,
Mhm.
right? That's how generally you progress through components. So one thing I would be curious about is if not a year, right? Essentially, what would maybe what would a time frame look like? So maybe some thought to that would be helpful for me,
Yeah.
just so I can, because the system is I think there's a component of what someone could complete it through, right? So if someone realistically could complete something through a year,
Mhm.
that means there's an operational component that they could push through in a year,
Mhm.
but that doesn't mean that they would push through in that year.
Right.
And so trying to find the balance between what is possible or what can happen and what is more realistic, I think those become the two bookends that we're trying to understand.
Right. I think a good piece of information that could help us there would be to look at the history of our step raise program since we've had our Officers Academy as part of that program. Because the Officers Academy is what we're using for one of the steps in the progression in that scale. So that Officers Academy and then the task book being a part of that, if we can look back, we can probably get an average number of people per year that are either going through or we know kind of that the able to go through is roughly 20 per year. But we can see if there were less than that on average that actually made it through that program. The downfall to it is we have a pretty short window, which in my opinion, the shorter window we have, the less accurate that information is, right? But it'll still give us at least a rough idea maybe of how to apply that to get us a little more accurate representation. I don't know what that would look like from your side to try to get that information of how many people have been able to make it through the Officers Academy.
And remind me, where does that exist? Where's that information?
The step, it would be in the step raise program is what we'd have to look at, which would be, it's not going to be easy to get because the step raise program, we literally would have to like pull records and look at what people used to get their step raise because the Officers Academy was added to a list of classes that someone could take. So we could look at a roster. And then once we had that roster, so it's a bit of a project, but if we looked at the roster of who went through the Officers Academy, we could then look at those people and pull their step raise and see if they used the Officers Academy for their step raise or if they used something else. And that would at least get us kind of a concept. Now, what we're trying to do with the step raise program is twofold. Is we're trying to make a system that makes more sense for the organization, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of value in going. Everyone is going down this path. And we're getting rid of the idea that they're doing just random stuff that was talked about 20 years ago and may not even apply to the job itself. So we, in pulling that information and being able to look at that, I don't think there's any other way that we could quantify what that looks like other than just pulling those records, unless you guys can. And maybe payroll payroll does the adjustment for the step raises. So maybe that would be the first system and kind of place to start is looking at those changes to somebody in the payroll system that's applied. And I'm sure there's a code that's a step raise type code.
Career ladder.
The career ladder.
Career ladder.
Yeah.
This is probably a question for Stacy or maybe others. Do we, I know how it works for general employees, but I'm not sure how it works for our fire contract employees. Do we record, do we have a training base? Like, do we use iLearn to record their accomplishment of training like we do for general
We
employees,
do,
or
but
do you
not
all
for
have like a
that.
training database?
Not for that.
We don't
We're
use
more
it for that.
convoluted,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay,
We have multiple systems.
okay,
We do have a training base. We do use Target Solutions. That's how we track credentialing.
yeah,
That's how we track
okay, so it isn't
EMS.
Target, okay.
Well, but the step raise part
Oh,
is not done in
Okay.
Target Solutions. That is a, dare I say, antiquated system
Yeah.
of you literally hand fill out a piece of paper that has a list of courses that then you hand into the training chief. The training chief basically does an audit of, here are the courses you say that you've done. I can now see that you have applied these specific training days to that certification. They then, through that audit, go, yes, this is approved for a step raise. That information then goes to, I believe, Jen and payroll, and then Jen makes the adjustment. I don't even know that those get scanned into a system.
Okay. I want to take a quick step back and ask more of a why question in terms of if we're going to go through this process to really figure out what the step progressions look like and what the records show. My curiosity here is we're looking at past behavior based on different incentives. And what you're proposing is new incentives
Sure.
that necessarily won't be apples to apples. So
Sure.
does it make sense to do this if you're incentivizing a different way? And there could be different numbers associated based on why someone might do it here versus
Yeah.
why someone might do it here.
good point.
It's a great question. And I totally hear all of the value in that question, because we go through this a lot. When we start negotiations, we go, how much modeling do we want to try to do? How specific do we want to try to get? Because we are basing some of these things on assumptions, and we're not always apples to apples. So there is a big conversation of, do we just go, hey, this is where we think we're going to be. We think it's a pretty accurate reflection, and we're in negotiations, and there's a discussion of, we're going to try to kind of put everything together and at the end of the day, be able to come together in agreement with, here's what our new contract looks like. And here are the new things and the things that are not there anymore. So there's a lot of value going. We could chase our tails for days and days and
And that's
days.
kind of my concern is how much do we put into this knowing
Yeah.
it's likely not going to be exactly
Yeah,
correct.
some of the stuff we were curious about is like, 'cause, Jason was saying that right now we have a task essentially assigned to it. And I know I was giving the advice, and I know other members are giving the same advice, which is go get your classes as a firefighter. Then when you promote day one, you get all your step raises.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's kind of like the information we were trying to gather is that changes now, where you don't just promote immediately, get your step raises, which not everybody did that, but I don't know that number, versus now there's some time in grade at that position before you start getting your step raises.
Yeah.
We were trying to figure out the finance.
Trying to figure out.
That was
Yeah.
also part of our ask of we're financially kind of in this position here with an ability to do the education, get the certifications, and be able to apply for that day one of getting a promotion. I always use myself for an example because it's easy, because I was able to do that. Not everybody has the capability to do that. Not everybody has the drive to do that. Mine was not, I don't want to come off like I was a strong driving force. I came from another department where I had already promoted quite a bit, and I had a lot of those things done. I am a driver, by the way. But I was able to just walk in day one. Other people that are just very motivated to advance their career faster, they can start doing those things literally the second they're off of probation. They can start, because they're doing it on their own time. They're applying for classes to be able to go through and take those, so they could do it and be able to apply for day one. So in our new modeling, that does not exist anymore. Nobody gets it day one. So we were trying to go, okay, we're not able to do this anymore. So is there an ability for us to be a little more consistent over here and kind of make up some of that over here, where we have a cost savings here? Let's apply it to this end of the modeling, because also now it's not as easy, because you have to go through this timeline, and the Officers Academy Where before you really got to do it on your own schedule, your own time, whatever worked for you and your family. I could look at the class lists and go, I am available. This class is offered here, here, here. I can choose to take it here. Now we are going to be limited in the Officers Academy is going to be 1 3-week period during the year. And if you're not able to make that, you're not able to get that step in the progression for our step ladder. You will then have to wait another year. So because we were kind of giving up a lot of flexibility we were trying to capture over there. Long story is, if we go through, try to get a little bit closer in the modeling of cost, I think that we can just go, let's put a little bit of energy into it, try to get a little closer modeling, even though we aren't in an apples to apples scenario. And then just kind of agree, we think this is a good spot for us to then be able to move forward in conversation.
Based,
Go ahead.
okay, based on what you just said, another idea just popped into my head. Do we have, I hear you on the academy, and I think we've tossed out like 20 seats in the academy.
Yeah.
Do we have a plan for academies going forward? Like, could we use that? Since looking back may be problematic for various reasons, could we instead look forward? Like, do we have enough of a sense from the training division of what the next 2 to 3 years looks like in terms of your plans for offering what? Could we use that as a proxy?
I think that definitely can get us kind of this average. I could easily reach out to Chief Zimmerly, who is our training chief. He was ironically in charge of the Officers Academy prior to becoming the training chief. So he's got a really good idea of kind of where we are. And I've talked with him enough that I know our kind of target audience to be able to put through Officers Academy is 20 people. And the reason that it's 20 people is because it's a lot of hands-on training and strategy and tactics of being an officer. And that hands-on training is critically important to making sure that we have people that are ready to go apply what they have learned out in the field and give services to our community. So if we put 30 people through that class, then it dilutes the amount of time that each individual person gets to put their hands on a specific process that they need to learn for strategy of fighting a structure fire, for strategy of having a trench collapse. And if they don't get that, then we feel the training loses a lot of the value. And so that's kind of the reason that we're compressed. Now, we could look at, could we do multiple?
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, I know there's an expense to this, but could we say, if we felt at some point it was like 20 is not enough, let's say it's hindering people's ability to move forward, we do 15 and 15 and we do them in parallel. So you can increase it. They still get hands-on, but you're doing 2 different cohorts.
So, I mean, so
There's an
significant
expense,
cost,
of course,
yeah.
yes.
There's no
Yeah.
either.
And I always,
Yeah, I don't know.
being there again, I always feel like we have to balance a couple of things. Number one is we have to have the people that are able to do the training. And we are limited somewhat. I run a program that I have an academy that's a part of my program. I have a group of people that are a committee that are designed, that are theoretically some of the drivers of that position, that movement. They're kind of tip of the spear as far as this is the latest and greatest. So these are the people that we want to help to be able to teach the academies and teach people moving forward. And we're asking them to do that outside of their normal job
Yeah.
of being a firefighter.
There's overtime costs to bring them into.
Yes, and there's the capacity that they as an individual have to just work all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, and not to say that we couldn't really look at that model, and we have done it before. We have seen, we have a bottleneck that has happened. We have to do something, and it's usually okay, let's process through this. Let's talk about it from a department need, from what the community needs, how quickly, and let's make an adjustment. And we kind of make that one-off adjustment that helps get us through a tough time. And then we get back to kind of status quo.
Mhm.
So I think status quo is very much single officers academy a year, with 20 people in it. So I think if we use that again, it's kind of our rough modeling of that's what we're after. If we start getting a bottleneck, yes, there would be a kind of a one-time cost to make the adjustment to bring some other people up to speed to get them through if we have a growth spurt, if you know we see a need departmentally, and that's what we do is we make those adjustments.
Okay, I think we could, sorry.
Well, I was going to ask a question about, so we're talking about the officer academy, right? And it seems like that one of the issues we're running into is that year time progression, right? Like, is a year enough to move from step to step to step, right? Because if the officer academy isn't provided, you know, if it's provided once a year, that doesn't allow people the opportunity to step as quickly. And so is that 1 year the right amount of time, right? I'm wondering, because I know this conversation started to pop up around the step progressions, right? Is that 1 year the right amount? And so I guess I'm wondering, it's possible that people could move up faster than 1 year, right? And so let me think about it from this way. Like, let's say I'm a regular firefighter, and to get to the step 4 in firefighter, I have to complete the captain's task book, right? Within the proposal. And there's a number of things that are, yes, right? So when you would promote from firefighter 4 to firefighter 1, you would automatically promote to senior firefighter 2, right? Because you would have everything completed, I believe, if I'm looking at the matrix appropriately. So you would promote up, and then you would automatically move faster than we would have in the system, right? Because technically we would have expected it to be a couple of years, but someone promoted up automatically and flowed through the system. So in that case, right, we would have underestimated the cost of that proposal. And so I think this is one of the balances that we have within the modeling, right? Is that what is the right benchmark? Because we have to leverage some type of number. Someone hypothetically could move way faster than a year. Someone could move within 2 years. And I think, Jason, your example was you bumped up right away and were able to promote. So all that's to say, I kind of go back to the question of like what the time to pull all of these things, knowing that in some instances, we're going to underestimate the forecast, right? In certain instances, we're going to overestimate the forecast, just because we can't know what human behavior is going to look like in the motivation factors. Right. It goes back to Stacy's point of, you know, different incentives now. So a 1 under the current, right? The senior firefighter career development 1 was about 1%, right? So now if I promote up and I know I have a 3% bump from that, that might motivate me to do something completely different. And so I think we have to be aware that there are certain instances where that 1 year factor, someone might take longer than, and there are other instances where they're going to take much shorter than that 1 year. And so even then it's that best estimate at any given time.
I feel like this conversation was super helpful. I think we've got good information and enough shared understanding to go back and remodel it. Based on a little bit of a look back to get a sense of kind of where we have been, and then a look forward with maybe this 20 a year as a placeholder, understanding it's imprecise and it's not right. Like there's human behavior, there's operational limitations, right? Like, but if we have if we can kind of nod our heads that like, that seems like a reasonable base assumption that we're like, like, let's do that. I think we've got what we need to remodel. If that's remodel, that'll work. Run the model with this new assumption.
Fiscally conservative would be the take for that senior firefighter 1, the senior firefighter 2 is to say 20 a year. If you really want to do it, take your most senior firefighter 1s that have been there the longest, be your highest expense, and put them up at 20 a year if you want to do it that way. Doesn't capture that firefighter that's going to go from firefighter to swinging up to captain that goes through the academy, but you'd have a higher price point if you did it on the senior firefighter 1s. So since there's a 20 limit, regardless if you're a firefighter or a driver, if you do that 20 in the senior firefighter rank to senior firefighter 2 a year, that could give you your most fiscally conservative since we have a logistic cap at this time. And then the same thing could happen from a captain 1 to a captain 2, where they're doing from I think it's called the Treasure Valley Battalion Chiefs Academy, some term like that. But since there's not enough locally, it's expanded out to the valley. So everybody having those lower positions coming out. Also on an annual basis, you could do that captain 1 to captain 2. And I don't know if they are also capped from 20 per Boise fire or if it's a smaller. And that would be a giant number, honestly, for captains going to.
Yeah.
I don't think they would accept that. Right. 10 might be a high number. Yeah, for captains per year would be a high number.
I was gonna bring up to, and just that was a good point. I hadn't thought about that. The firefighter 4, going to senior firefighter 2. I will say, obviously things can change, but historically we only have about 2 to 4 of those members that fit that firefighter 4 category. So it's usually not a high percentage of our members.
You're now subject to be like, I'm gonna take as a firefighter, be willing to jump anywhere in the city.
Yeah.
And which is gonna be a common thing where it's first, we're usually short captains, second, we're short drivers. So for your chance to actually play firefighter is quite limited. So you're gonna be assuming if you have a station, expecting to be sent all over the place.
All of our people that have gone that route also from the firefighter to captain swing up are all people that have chose not to promote to senior firefighter or to a driver. And so they basically are taken out of the matrix of this normal path and they just take a different path to get there. So it's almost a straight across even move because they would be removed from kind of the timeline progression of what is the standard, which is going to a senior firefighter, then going to a captain, and they just wait down here because they don't want to be a driver. So they just hang on until they've built up enough years of being in the organization that they understand how to operate at that level of a captain. And it's a really good model because the firefighter and the captain are very similar kind of jobs. They're the firefighter is learning directly from that captain on what to do, how to manage fires, how to manage medical calls, how to manage scenes. The driver position is almost kind of this step in a different direction, which is your job now has really shifted to being focused on how do I get somewhere and get there safely, get there quickly with all of my people? How do I then supply water on a structure fire to what's going on? So they're not even attached to this crew anymore. When they get to a structure fire, they're operating kind of on their own. So some people just choose, they go, I'm not really interested in this part over here. And I have a direct line of progression to be able to go. We're looking at right now, we're going to have a vote soon on whether we think people should be able to promote in that direct line of progression rather than just swing up in that direct line of progression. So it's a path, and to Justin's point, yes, someone can get here, but that's because they have chosen not to go through this path. So normally that cost would have already been there. They're just holding off and that cost is not being applied until they go this direction. But it's very similar timeline.
Interesting.
I
Okay.
think for the costing, try to figure out that senior firefighter 2 to 3. Now you've got your steps to say, I've done my test book, I've gone through academy, and then it's when you go to get WOC to captain qualified to being able to operate as a captain if the city needs you that day. Dang. That part is, I don't know the timeline on that one. If it's more than a year, what are averages? That one's a little bit more. How do we understand that behavior? If there's historical numbers we could grab to average time in seat before WC, I'm not sure what that looks like or the ease of being able to grab. Those things.
I would like to, I mean, for I think the benefit of kind of moving this conversation forward and having some progress, like to offer kind of our services of as you go through any modeling and you have a question on something that comes up, just reach out and call us and we can do it through Christine. If you're okay with it, you can just, call us and And again, I feel very comfortable in that because all we're doing is we're just trying to share the
Oh,
information.
Yeah,
absolutely.
totally.
No, I'm good. Like this isn't, trying to negotiate. This is just trying to
Yeah.
get our numbers together and get an accurate model.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would be super happy for all of us to do that. Cam's really great at being able to help with financials. He is kind of our guy that does financial stuff. I'm firefighter now. I love it. I'm
Don't sell yourself short.
good at the idea part. I'm good at talking through pieces of it,
Mhm.
but I'm not, I can't touch what Cam can.
I mean, the fact that you've built somehow, I'm assuming in Excel and other things, a modeling, I'm impressed. It's not firefighter math. Like, I'm impressed with how I mean, that's, you had to do that like by brute force. We've got a nice little system. So yeah, happy
This
to
is-
share information. Happy to
This
share.
is this one now is my 16th contract negotiation that I have been a part of. And Cam is hands down the best finance and budgeting guy that I have ever seen. So sorry, Cam, just wanted to give you a little
Back to that.
credit on.
Back to that. This is the team that shall forever until,
Yes, right.
until they're gone from the planet be at the table.
So I feel pretty good of where we are. What I would like to do is shift to go in kind of to your financial presentation.
Yeah.
And just going through, we had a couple more questions
Great.
just on some other aspects of what this looked like.
Great.
Yeah, we
Um,
really took that one and read it for a second.
That's all right.
Yeah.
It's
good.
good though. I think that's where, I think that's how we're gonna be most productive is to like really understand, like, we assumed this and you're like, I wouldn't have thought about it that way. What if we adjusted the assumption? So yeah, I think this is time well spent, or at least for us to be able to.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
Great.
So, Justin, I'm just pulling up your proposal that was in the or presentation that was in the shared folder, and I'm just going to roll through it by slide.
Yep, let's go.
So slide 2, we had really no questions on that. It was a super easy costing active reflection. The advanced EMT proposal. So this one we did have kind of a costing proposal, and this one I think involves your team from fire administration. You've got it at a 1.8 million cost, but that's based on all 283. The model is going to be similar to our paramedic model where we have a cap. And I want to say that the initial cap was like 60 people, the organization total.
I thought, and maybe it's just a misunderstanding on my end. I think when I had read it originally that there was a cap or there was not a cap associated with it,
Mhm.
but it's helpful.
I don't know if it says like a number. Ultimately, that'll be like a management decision. So
Okay.
probably
Yeah.
almost like a question for a Chief Hummel or Chief Gervais, like
Yeah.
what do they think that?
With it,
And I think you're right, because when we initially, this proposal came back from our last negotiation.
okay.
And when we presented it the first time, we just presented it as, here's an advanced EMT.
Got it.
Some of our members are advanced EMT. If they're gonna be advanced EMTs, practice, take on kind of that, I talk about that additional liability. We would like them to be compensated for that. But again, that was with the assumption that we had a handful of advanced EMTs. The progression started into what is now the city's model of kind of the whole paramedic and EMS system changing a little bit, at least internal system that we have. So when we started talking about that, that really came down to more of a global perspective that the chief had for the department, which was, I would like to kind of advance our basic level of service
Mhm.
that we're able to provide to the citizens to roughly a advanced EMT on each engine. And so
You say the number was again, the
60,
60.
and I'm using that as a rough number.
20%.
That's 20 per shift, which theoretically puts one advanced on each engine. We have paramedics in the system, so that leaves a couple float people as well. So if somebody was an advanced EMT was sick, we would still maintain a full staffing of an advanced level of EMT throughout the entire city. I would recommend a talk with Hummel, Romeo, anybody to kind of see if that number is the same number that they're still looking at. So with that,
That's,
that costing modeling,
Yep.
we feel like changes
Yep.
significantly.
Yep, absolutely.
But I mean, I think they're the right numbers. It's just figuring out
We
the
got the right
number.
total we got to use.
Yes.
And this is where the conversation's helpful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
well, and we were, how to say this most gracefully. Well, I think we were trying to cost as proposed, not make additional assumptions.
Sure.
And like, kind of like bake in at like,
Yeah.
like how we would do it. So, so this is
Yeah.
really helpful because that's, I think we were trying to be like as pure as we could and like, okay, this is what you proposed.
Honor
and
the
we wanted to
respect.
share it and not
Yeah.
start baking
Yeah.
in like
Yeah.
our preferences or
Yes. Yeah.
our, if that makes sense.
Yes, I
Okay.
appreciate that very much as well. I mean, because there could be, I mean, we could get to a point where we go, this other proposal, we're not ready for it, we're not prepared, and we come back to this and go, yeah, we kind of, we're looking at this as part of this system, that system's not taking in place. Now it comes back to a basic proposal and it's technically eligible to everybody. So I can appreciate where we are there.
Okay.
As we move forward, kind of in progression, I think it's great to just have both of those to have, hey, here's kind of the cost of the advanced EMT with our proposal, just a flat, it's eligible for every single person. And then here is a model that shows roughly 60 people that would be kind of part of the other system.
That should, again, I think that should be pretty straightforward for us to recalc.
I bet Cam could do it on his fingers. Could you, Cam?
20? I can count to 20.
You have to take your shoes off,
Yeah.
right?
I got wiggle room.
One thing that we'll have to be cognizant of when we do model out in the system is that 5% of a firefighter is very different than 5% of a battalion chief.
Yeah, what's that?
And so,
Yeah.
what does that blend look like?
Yeah.
Right? Because we want to be respectful of what operations will need. So just being cognizant that we'll have to be
Yes, thoughtful. Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, I'd be curious on how that looks. Yeah, what that blend would be. But I'm curious on Questica, is there a way to like duplicate databases so you have different sandboxes? Because as we get into costing, there might be ones you're like, well, geez, I don't know if that proposal's going through. This one's, it might not be going through. So is it easier to look at like, okay, I could do the career development here, the specialty development here,
Yeah, so
not be fun.
it's possible. So the way that we have it built, because if we're thinking about all these proposals, AEMT numbers change if we move to the career development, right? Because base wage changes.
Yeah.
So there's all these variables that we have to be cognizant of. So like the AEMT proposal right now is considering current CLA.
Mhm.
But if we were to continue to go down that road to flip the structure, we have to reprice AEMT with the new base wages.
And I think that's where at least in my mind, like the road I imagine we're traveling down, right, is we get through some basic costing. This afternoon, hopefully we start to talk priorities. And then I mean, where I imagine we are, and I'm not sure if it's probably a couple of weeks out, or maybe we go real fast, but like actually then building packages,
Mhm.
right? Where it's like, if we could put this and this together, what does it look like? Because right now we're kind of in silo land, but I think that's when it becomes, it's like, okay, so let's assume we think we're in agreement on the elements of this plus this, like then what does that look like together?
Yeah.
Because otherwise we're kind of running infinite scenarios. So I
Right.
think like once we get through the prioritization and we start being like, okay, like what would a package like this look like? I think then we get much closer to an accurate
Yes.
snapshot. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and part of it is more of like, man, if you're just working in one and you have to undo, redo, control C, control Y, like, but if we could save you, like, hey, here's some other things for costing. So if you're like, it makes more sense to have two separate databases and then blend just from all the work you have to put in.
Yeah.
Questica.
We have a test sandbox, so if we flip between structures, right, we have to make shifts in the system, but
Yeah.
that's something we can support on.
Okay.
We think we have figured out how to do
I
that.
think, yes.
We're about to test the limits of what take Questica out for a
Yeah.
freeway test drive.
Yeah.
Okay, I am just double checking here.
I mean, by next negotiation, we can probably just have AI do it all.
Yeah.
We still
All right,
have
I'll
to
talk
do-
to your AI.
Yeah, exactly. Just have our AIs get together. And then
I mean, we'll still all be here to monitor AI.
Of course, of course.
It's in our contract.
Negotiations going on.
This might be the last one though that.
Right, so I think we had a great conversation on the advanced EMT. Kind of have now theoretically almost two different modeling packages, if you will, to kind of move through.
You have what you need, Justin, or you
I-
can.
I'll talk with Chief and Chief Romeo as well about the mixture, right?
Yeah.
Because I think right now in the system, there are some folks who operate as EMTs, but they're probably not 60 individuals or
No,
have that
not as close,
designation,
yes.
Yeah.
right? So we're gonna have to make those assumptions. So I think that's something that we can work offline on and come back on what we use as that assumption.
Perfect, that sounds great.
Because I feel like we're now like TAing assumptions. Is there even a word for that?
You know, it's,
Are we about to create a whole new thing?
yeah, it's almost like the comparable conversations that happen in contract negotiations is so much conversation about just trying to nail down comparables and why you're using comparables, because it's all the same thing. It's all talking about assumptions and how would this comparable apply if we used it in our system, because their system is different. Which I'm really glad that we're able to just kind of go.
One thing that we just made as a quick benchmark, maybe we want to test this, but if we were to drop from the 283 down to 60, that's about 20%. Right?
Sure.
And so a rough order of magnitude is you take that 1.8 million,
Mhm.
it would drop to about 380,000.
I was just-
Oh,
She's like, and phone math.
Just trying
right.
to
So
figure it out.
like, because that's probably gonna be some of a blend.
That's what I don't.
Nostalgia now.
Yeah,
But that might be even like a closer benchmark because
Yeah.
as a rough order of magnitude,
Sorry, what was the number?
about 380,000.
300.
what was your number?
That's,
It was about that, yes. I'm not telling you.
that would be the
Oh, that's right, that's.
concern, because I think we only have right now is like 14. And obviously that's be the max. But I think when next time we talk is,
Ambitious then.
so I think next time we talk, it might be worth talking to
Yeah.
Chief
Yeah.
Hummel and just
But
finding
it
out.
could be one to your point, right? If
But
it's incentive.
If it's incentivized, I'm sure we'll
Yeah,
have
if
more
we
people
change
that
the
that want
incentive.
to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Right now, it's recently changed that will help, will cover education, provide the education, right?
Provide the education.
Yeah, but there's still no compensation. So now if we provide the education and there's a compensation.
Yeah, you're gonna.
Now your incentive will
We're
change.
gonna go for it.
Yeah.
Because we're not, yeah.
Yeah, fiscally conservative, we say all of a sudden, wow.
Yeah.
We have a touch.
They're doing it right now, but they're capping it, I believe, about 2 members a year
Mhm.
Oh, so.
For education.
for education.
So-
So conversation, like some members may just elect to do it on their own,
Mhm.
like may pay for it and do it out of pocket essentially.
Hmm.
If they're willing to be compensated for it. I don't know how many though. That's a behavioral change.
Yeah.
Pretty slow growth rate then on that.
Yeah.
Benefit, okay.
Back to the operational constraints in the training division.
Mhm.
Is this one that they can go outside or is
Yeah.
this constrained by our training capacity? They can go
No,
out.
there's getting an advanced TMT, we have,
Okay.
I think we probably have the capacity to put on some training in-house. But I don't think we would do all of it
Okay.
in-house. It
Okay.
would make more sense, I think, to send people out.
Thank you. I was just clarifying. I was like,
Yeah.
oh,
I suppose there's a potential if they really wanted us to have an advanced EMT on every engine, we could probably do our own class. But then there's a big, cost of putting our members there, putting instructors there.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the logistics of that would look like.
Do you have instructors internally or do you have to contract for that?
Probably have to contract that. I don't know. I'm also not sure what the certification is to be an instructor for an advanced EMT class.
Okay.
We have multiple paramedics in-house that do have some paramedic of training ability. So I would assume
Like a
that,
special national registry certification you have to have. I don't
If
know,
we would.
to be honest.
and then we would just get into that, I think, discussion outside of here that is what's in our best interest, cost wise as a department. If we're gonna make a jump to trying to put an advanced EMT on every engine, does it make sense for us just to pull that in-house and issue one and then do the rest of them outside?
got it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Absolutely.
Probably just pay any stuff.
So specialty team proposal.
Yeah.
The slide number 4, if we can move on real quickly to that one. Justin, you had an estimated annual increase of $610,000. And it said that was based on current specialty team assignments based on current years of service, and includes fringe for Percy payroll. So that based on current years of service, the only question was, so you applied also the longevity part of specialty team in this modeling?
Yep. So when we collect information from HR,
Mhm.
they indicate how long someone's been in that specific specialty team for.
Mhm.
So it'd be, I think from 0 to 5, right? We apply a flat rate currently.
Yep.
Right. And then in the system, if they go from 5 to 10, they bump up slightly, right? And
Uh-huh.
it is. So we have that information already on how long they've been in specialty for.
Okay, so because we were flat rate on the base and then flat rate on the longevity, your modeling, you turned the flat rate base into a percentage and then the flat rate longevity into a percentage?
So, yeah, so I think if I remember the proposal is 5% base,
Uh-huh.
right? And then I think if you go up to, it's 6%. I'm trying to remember what the total,
In that 5 to, dang,
yeah.
in that 5 to 10 years, that would be, once you hit that 5 mark, an additional 1%. And then after 10 years, so that's another part, like, ooh, how do you calculate? Because I didn't write that really well.
Yeah.
I think that proposal needs to be reworded so it's more clear, but it'd be an additional one for a total of 2%. So your max top step, if you will, specialty team member would be a 7% total
7%.
at 10 years of consecutive service.
Yeah, I believe that is what we did.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I still should reword it to read.
Yeah,
clear.
we recognize that it was not clear on, is it 1% and then 2%?
Yeah.
Or was it
We'll
1?
confirm back in the system, but I'm pretty sure that's what we did.
Okay, perfect. So no other questions on specialty team?
Yeah, so it sounds like you took the kind of the gross, if you apply the current members, new proposal percentages where they all land, minus the existing cost structure of where everybody, and here's your net.
This is a new incremental cost.
Okay, awesome.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So going past the title page of 5 to 6, we are in the career development proposal portion of that. I don't see, I'm going to go back to my Trello board here real quick. Okay, so the first question that we had here really was from the perspective, and we've already talked about it a little bit because we kind of jumped ahead when we were talking about this prior to going through the slide, but really was based on, in the savings, did we model in that kind of 1 year of not being able to get it? So that, and when I say not being able to get it, let me be more clear. That first year, I had the ability, multiple people had the ability to day one apply their step raise percentage. That is no longer a potential. So did we look at what that cost was and be able to apply that as a savings into the modeling into this as well?
So if I'm understanding correctly, the savings you're talking about is in the current system, someone can move automatically. So if I'm a senior firefighter 4, right, I can move up to a 2 or a 2 or 3 in the senior firefighter, and it doesn't matter how much time you've been in that 4 year. It didn't matter in the past, but now it matters when you have to wait that first year.
Yes. Yeah. That would be the fastest.
Yes.
You would be able to do it.
Yes. So what we did is correct. So we placed folks. So Romeo helped identify where folks might sit within the new structure.
Sure. Yeah. We had that conversation a lot of.
Yeah. So where would people reside? Where we think we might be. And then we have a 1 year wait before that person can then promote up to the next step. So we're building that 1 year time gap in the system.
Okay. So that is built into the system. So I think what I'm trying to say is, for example, also the WOC, and you did reference the WOC because now you would be in a step progression, and we
Mhm.
also currently in our system have a budget for WOC.
That's correct.
That budget would no longer
Correct.
exist,
We zeroed it out
Yeah.
and applied,
and then applied
netted it
it,
out.
Yes,
and you netted it out.
100%.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep. So we, the
Yep.
career ladder pay, we backed it out. The WOC, we backed it out.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Awesome. So those were kind of our biggest questions on the costing model there. I'm gonna pop down to slide number 7. So we have removal of career ladder WC, decreased costs. On the increased costs, we really have kind of modeling of 1 year. And yes, I think that modeling is maybe some discussion of a 20-person capacity rather than everybody. But also we have to look at, I don't even know what everybody looks like in the Questica modeling.
Yeah.
Because Questica may look at it and go, well, we only have 20 people that are at this step. So it may be built
Yeah.
in
Already. Yeah. And
Um,
that's where I think it'll be important, and that we could talk about that, but right, there may not be any capacity gap already,
Right.
because there's 20 folks who are assuming that they would be able to flow through the current system, and
Right.
that then the 1 year feels appropriate.
Right.
That
Yeah. Yes.
Mhm.
Perfect. Okay, slide number 8, we had some questions on that I think maybe you will be able to just answer easily.
Yeah, hopefully.
So the estimated fiscal impact, fiscal year 2027 has a $500,000 cost, if you will. Fiscal year 2028, it theoretically goes up, depending on what type of math you like to use, by 150%,
Mhm.
or considering 200%. Then in 2029, it drops down to about a 20% increase.
Yeah,
Can you help us understand
Yeah.
what happened there?
I love this question. So a couple of things are happening, right? So if you think about the step progressions, we're now building in, for senior firefighters, step 2 and 3, same with captains 2 and 3.
Mhm.
So depending on where they were placed before, right? In year 2, what you're seeing is the jump from step 1 to step 2,
Mhm.
right? And then there's going to be a smaller so some of those jumps might have been from 1 to 2 and from 2 to 3,
Mhm.
depending on where they were placed.
Mhm.
And then in year 3, there's only a couple people who might still pop up, right? Anybody who placed at a step 1 in the very beginning, now they've topped out at a step 3. So essentially you're seeing the progression through the steps in this,
Mhm.
right? So that's one of the biggest drivers of the cost increases every year is eventually people are going to top out at the top step.
Right.
Right. And so the gap between year 2 and 3 of that 300,000 is going to be smaller than the gap between 1 and 2, because more people were stepping up between year 1 and 2 than are stepping up between year 2 and 3.
Mhm.
And is this
Okay.
also reflective of we don't have a word for this, but a phrase, I'm gonna call it the 1 year waiting period. So is that also reflected in the big jump from 27 to 28? So like we said, you can't do it day 1.
Mhm.
There's a year. So if the contract goes into effect, then we have this like waiting year, but then a bunch of people pop
Up and
Is
step
that
up in
also
here.
captured?
Yeah.
Am I reading that right?
Yeah, you would be, because it'd be everybody stepping
That
up.
1 year
Mhm.
leg.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So fairly accurate statement that once we get to roughly this $1.5 million cost, it starts to kind of level
It
out.
levels out,
Okay.
assuming no base wage growth.
Right. Yes. And then it's base wage growth. But as we base wage growth into the modeling, it's still going to be a smaller incremental.
Yep.
Okay. Perfect.
Model that out.
You guys got any other questions on that one?
So this is kind of more with the new appendix, the new change, where you would see a spike as it grows into its new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the shift.
It's the shift. It's providing
The shift.
career progression, right?
Yeah.
And so, that's where, as people are growing in their career and having that defined pathway, it flows into the forecast.
Perfect. Yeah. Same thing. This is showing net where it's taking gross minus existing. And then, yeah, Now we have net impact on that. And this is kind of how you're doing it already too, where you're saying, hey, this one, I'm just showing you this proposal. This one, I'm just showing you specialty teams. And then when we start, like you mentioned, the packages, what these numbers start to looking like. Okay.
All right, I'm gonna pop back to our Trello board here real quick again. Under development. Okay, perfect. So we had two more, and one of them ties into another proposal. So I'm gonna go back to our slide there, Justin. So we're looking at number 9, slide number 9, and that's a compression impact. You guys can't say, oh,
Sorry,
no.
Oh, that's fine.
all faces win. What happened?
With that slide 8, is that assuming again that like all members are getting their firefighter 2 after 1 year?
Correct.
Okay.
And so, yeah, it's the 1 year step up.
Yeah.
Each.
That's for
All members within
All
that
members.
range.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is
Goes
part,
back
I
to
think,
that.
of what we were talking
Yeah.
about, adjusting the modeling, right? If we go back and are like, well, more realistically, it's 20.
Have more of a feather than,
Yeah,
quite a jump. That growth would happen just over a longer timeline maybe, but eventually they get there. I see. Yeah. Okay, no more.
Yeah, sorry.
You know,
whenever I'm with my public safety friends, I have to say, I just am less stressed about the big gasp. Because I'm like, if there really is a really, really bad problem, I have the right people in the room. Like,
it's fine. Don't look at it.
Yeah,
if I aren't in the room and someone makes that sound, that I'm like, what? You'll put me at ease. This is good.
Okay, so slide number 9, compression. And this is a great slide to talk about because this is I think a legitimate conversation and concern for everyone here. Compression is an issue that if we are not strategic and smart about what we're doing, we can really limit progression within an organization because it limits any incentive to move forward if the progression is too compact. So we're trying to look at the current CLA, and the current CLA percentages there. Justin, do you know, were those based off of just base rate, or were they based off of base rate plus current step raise?
I would have to connect with some HR friends. I know Carissa, who you met last time, she was able to put that slide together. So I don't want to speak for her.
Yeah, perfect. If we could kind of get a little clarification.
Base rate.
Just base. Okay. So that's a big part of the gap that we're seeing is if we're using the current CLA language and only using base rate and not applying the step raise to it, then it creates a much larger gap in the progression, which then looks like we're closing the gap in progression because our new system has the step raise built into the new system. So I just want to make sure that we kind of have the conversation of this is not creating a smaller gap. It is really maintaining pretty close to the same actual representation of compression that we're operating in now based on step raise.
You're asking, right?
Yeah, and I'm also wondering too.
Are you
So
translating?
base rates include the steps.
I don't think the base rate's steps. Because when we were calculating, it's just base rate.
Yeah.
It's base rate.
I think we.
I think
Yeah, we might want to bring
We circle
Carissa
back on
back.
Yes.
Is that okay? Like, we might just bring her back to
Yeah.
be able,
Yeah.
so we don't mistranslate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that sounds perfect.
Okay.
So we'll just kind of put that one on hold. But yes, our kind of interpretation first off is that it looked like it was on just base rate alone. So it does look like that compression shifts a little bit. But we want to be very kind of cognizant of the compression as well, trying to make sure that we maintain the appropriate amount of compression and or change between rank.
I appreciate that. I just want to say that, like, to me and our leadership team, that's really important. Like, we want that maintained all the way through chief, right? Like, we want to make sure that like, if you choose to, there is a path for you all the way up into command staff and beyond. So this is something we pay a lot of attention to across the city, and just philosophically, we want to be able to create that something that is incentivized for folks to be able to take that path all the way up through the ranks if they choose to.
Right.
So yeah, philosophically very, very aligned with that. So
Okay, so I think, that's really all the questions that we had on, the initial slides. Just to reference, just in the last slide, number 11, we did have, we looked back and there were two different numbers that we had, and the 3941 was the most accurate
Okay.
reflection of where we were. I think it was just a matter of timing of when we created our modeling.
so we guessed and used the right number.
Yes. Yeah.
Go us. Good job, Justin.
Yeah, and so the compression piece of it, just to kind of tie it in, we had some conversations about moving into some of the actual proposals a little bit, and with the compression in that paramedic proposal, with the compression, we now are creating, if we're looking at the city's proposal of captains not being able to maintain their paramedic at 10%, we immediately basically do away with any ability for paramedics to kind of like move forward. So we wanted to make sure that we're looking at that compression. If that's the model that the city really feels is the right way to go, we're not necessarily kind of pushing away from that, but it does create a compression that will almost stop paramedic captains from wanting to move forward. And one thing that wasn't addressed in there that we had looked at one point and had discussion at one point was within the paramedic system creating an FTO position and or a few FTO positions, and maybe that's a way to kind of fix some of that compression, is just to have an opportunity for a few people that want to maintain a high skill level of being a paramedic at a captain, and they just would turn into a FTO for paramedics.
I want to make sure that means the same thing in fire as it does in police. Field training
I
officer.
was just about to clarify that.
Thank you. I was like, I think I know what this means, but I should not assume. Thank you.
And I didn't want it to derail too much, but it was just like, it was in the process in my head that we kind of had that discussion as well. And I think it correlated, we were talking about compression of the other one.
Yeah, and that is really, I remember having some discussion with Chief Gervais about that, and making sure that I think exactly what you said, right? We don't want to take away an incentive that it stops a path, but if we're adding another incentive, does it offset it enough to keep the progression making sense,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah.
I think that was at, we talked quite a bit about that in terms of like, okay, like how do we make this all work? And we don't want to take something away and dead end anybody. What we were trying to figure out is like, if we move to this new model, is the bump enough to offset?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And-
that's what I think that's the little bit of the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the reality for us is, and it looks very similar to the kind of the discussion of compression between like a senior firefighter captain and the compression between a captain and a battalion chief. And the reason that compression conversation is important between those two ranks is because senior firefighters and captains, we have the same number of them. So we need to make sure that we have the ability to get everybody to move forward. When you go from captain to battalion chief, you go from having roughly 20 captains per shift to now three total.
chiefs,
So the compression, it's not important, but it has less kind of value to it, right? Because you're limited anyways on the number of people that can move into those positions. So that FTO kind of concept does the same thing. Limited positions, FTO, there's more work involved in trying to do that, but not everybody is going to want to do that. Some people are going to go, I'm totally good with promoting over here to a captain, taking away some of the workload of being a paramedic and having to be the one performing as a paramedic on every call, because now A, potentially I have an advanced EMT on the rig,
Mhm.
and then B, potentially there's still senior firefighters that are paramedics on the rig. So just wanted to kind of throw that one out there in the conversation.
These, I just have to say, like, these are big shifts we're talking about, right? Like, these are paradigm shifts. So I think it's really important that we talk through that, because these are not, there's a reason this hasn't made it through a negotiation in the past, right? Like, this is really complicated and we're completely shifting a system.
Yeah.
So I think it's, very important that we really understand all these interactions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that ties right into the value that's really out there, and kind of shifting perspectives of being able to have some conversation prior to negotiations
Absolutely.
to work through some of these, because
Mhm.
they're operational. They're not discussions of negotiation. They're what do we
Right.
want the system
Yeah,
to look
how do we
like,
actually
and
want
how do we
this to look?
perfect it so that when it comes time to actually negotiate, we know exactly what we're talking about and don't have to spend 3 months.
Yeah.
And then we get to the point where we go, oh, okay, it's just too much. We can't get there. There's too much to do.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I really appreciate where we have shifted to in our conversations and modeling of the negotiation process. If Stacy, your hands look really dirty right now.
Is it time for a hand wash?
You know, it's catching on across the city.
It has.
Is it?
It's like,
I've
I
known.
have heard more people meetings start to use it, and I don't even think they know it came from me.
I've also started to call her Emily Post Doty.
Yeah. I've done well for myself here, clearly.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
Are we to what kind of a break would we like?
I was just thinking a real short hand washing break.
Like a 15
Yes.
15-minute break?
Yes.
Lovely.
Sounds good.
All right.
Well, welcome back, everyone, from our short break. We would like to just kind of start by rolling into the last part of our kind of financial question. I see that Carissa has
Carissa's
joined
back.
us. Welcome. And I think there was one question that maybe we'll just ask for re-clarification, which I think Justin had kind of said that it would be great to have you here to help walk through that real quick. So we'll start there and then go into our last financial question that we had. So I'm just going to pull it up real quick. It was in the information presentation that was put in the shared folder that had to do with slide 9. Slide 9. So in that slide is really talking about compression, and it's got the current CLA and it shows compression from firefighter to senior firefighter at 6%, then 12% senior firefighter to captain, and 7% captain to battalion chief. And then it's got a proposed, and the proposed has a much tighter compression to it. And the proposed has, for everybody out there, our proposed kind of has that step ladder increase that builds in the step raises to that. So we were curious, our quick and primitive calculation looked and appeared that base rate was what was used to calculate the initial compression and not base rate with step raises.
So I put a visual in the information folder in today's shared folder. I think it might be helpful just to talk through that a little bit, because I wasn't fully understanding the question.
Sure.
Maybe too. So if you guys want to pull that up.
Are we now in 612, Carissa?
Yes, I put it in 612.
Okay, sorry. Hold on, folder refreshing. Look at that, new information folder. Okay, and it's the Word document.
Yes, correct.
Thank you.
So this shows the current CLA and then what was proposed, the new Appendix A. So if you look at the current CLA, you can see the gray represents the increased between ranks
Mhm.
up through, and then also the increase between steps. So in that presentation, if you scroll down and look at the current CLA with the new Appendix A, what that 2.9% is representing is firefighter class 3 going up to senior firefighter 1. And then the 7.3% that represents senior firefighter 3 going up to captain 1. And then the 3.2% represents captain 3 going up to battalion chief 1. So it does look at the new steps that have been added in there and the compression between firefighter, senior firefighter, firefighter to captain, to battalion chief,
Mhm.
chief, et cetera. Does that help address your question?
Yeah, it's really focused on the current CLA. So I think that the question is answered, that the current CLA is on base rate only compression. Because our step raise is a separate appendix in a separate system. So if we were then to apply our current step raise that we have now and pull that and merge that into the base rate, I think we would get a pretty accurate reflection of where the current is that's applicable to the proposed.
Are you talking about the career ladder steps? I
Yes.
think that's where I was. maybe
Yes,
connected.
yes, and we use so many different terms for it that we apologize for having so many different terms for it, because I refer to it as separate the education incentive, sometimes a career ladder progression, but yes, that career ladder progression is what we then tied into the new appendix. And so what we're trying to do is get, and we don't, Chris, I don't feel like we need to put any time or energy necessarily into it, because the question really was answered that, okay, this top one was just done off of base without that applied to it, and the new one is that applied to it. So that just explains the difference in compression, that we're not trying to change compression that much in the proposal. The proposal is taking two ideas that we have now and just tying them into one. I'm comfortable if you guys are comfortable with kind of the understanding there of not necessarily needing to put any more work into that.
Compression's hard because there's so many components, right? that we're looking at. Just the very structural piece of this, all those components. There's internal equity. That's a great reason to have very clear designation between steps. Just are you putting the right value on help with retention and promotion for those items? What would, I guess my question is, what would your ideal percent between ranks be?
I don't,
Even without,
yeah, I don't think we have an ideal percentage. It gets a little convoluted because it's driven by somebody's individual desire to promote through the organization. And both models are designed in that same process. In the step raise process, you have to be internally motivated to want to progress your career and to take classes in order to do that. Some people want to do that and they want to advance their careers faster. Some people don't. Our goal is just to make sure that we don't have so much compression that we theoretically de-incentivize people promoting through the organization. And I think it's the same goal that the city has, is we want to incentivize people to continue to further their education, to be able to provide better service to our community. We want that built in and we want it to happen. We don't want to get to the point where there is no incentive there longer for people to be able to do that. So we monitor and try to build proposals based on making sure that there is at least a reasonable step in progression. There's not too much compression, but we don't have a number. Our conversation that was really surrounding this was just because it appeared that we had a good gap that incentivized progression in our old CLA. And then it looked like we went, well, we're going to now get rid of and tighten compression throughout the organization, which was not our goal. And I also don't think is truly reflective of this because we're missing half of the information in the current CLA model here because we didn't add in step raise to that progression.
Can I ask a clarifying question,
Sure.
Jason? So I think is what you're saying is if we're just looking at base alone right now and we're comparing it to this new structure, there's a 1% increase for senior firefighters once they get their class, the step one, right?
Yep.
And then there's another 2% on when you hit your second class,
Yes.
right? And so technically I'm wondering if the gap that we're in the current CLA that we're showing between class 3 and senior firefighter is 6%. Excuse me, between senior firefighter and captain is 12% in the current CLA. But when you add in the 1 plus the 2 to get to 3, the difference is maybe 9, right? As opposed to the 12. And so trying to mirror those two things, is that
Yes.
my understanding?
Yes, yeah, it was really just a matter of, we were trying to make sure that we were having the conversation because we were talking about compression, that our model was not designed, and that's not our goal.
You weren't trying to squish
Is
them.
to squish down compression.
Yeah.
And it does kind of appear that that's what happened
Mhm.
from where we are now to the new model, is that we are changing that compression, and we're really not changing that compression. I mean, there's some, right? There's always going to be some compression adjustment when you bring a new system in, but we're trying to maintain pretty
You were trying
similar.
to maintain the separation.
Right, yeah. So, and that was kind of my point of, I don't feel like we need to remodel anything or try to bring all of the step raise stuff into the modeling. I don't think there's really any value. Just really wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page of, that's not what that proposal is designed to do, or what is a true
That's not the
reflection
intent, yeah.
of what's happening.
Okay.
Separate line items outside the appendix make it hard to figure out where they truly reflect. Now, if we memorialize those into the appendix, you get the better visual of, oh, those things that were hidden somewhere else that play into it are now shown in the different.
Which is a great lead-in conversation to our recruitment tools, right? The ability for somebody from outside of our organization to kind of look at an appendix and go, oh, this makes
I
sense.
understand.
I see how a promotional model flows throughout this organization. And that's a good incentive for me to want to come into an organization that has the ability and also encourages my movement throughout the organization. Anyways,
The switch is the messy part, right?
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
a little messy, and then once we're in it, it's like, huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there's a little bit of art, a little bit of science
Yeah.
as we're trying to.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I totally appreciate you answered every question, and I'm great with it.
Visual to it.
Yeah, that helped a ton.
Great.
Thank you.
And if throughout the day we need Chris again, of course, we can bring her back. So thank you.
Thank you for being on call.
Perfect. Okay, so moving on to the last real question on finances. And not a question so much as just an ask. Our ask is that we get a base 1% increase cost through Questica,
Mhm.
if you could, of where we are right now, moment in time.
Mhm.
So take our current CLA, our current
Where we are today.
people.
Yeah.
And just apply a base 1% increase and then throw that number back to us. What that's gonna do for us is it's gonna give us the ability it's gonna give Cam the ability. I think I could do this one, Cam. I think I could do this. To be able to kind of apply that in a rough form to our base wage percentage ask. And then we can also kind of apply that base through some of our modeling of some of our other proposals. So that we have the ability to modify and go through and prioritize exactly where we are.
Great.
And we know that it's not going to be perfect and that our modeling is not going to be exact, But if we use that as a base, it's extremely helpful for us.
So, I think Justin is able to answer this. And Justin, I think it would be helpful to provide context about the all-in number. So this, just as we've been talking about all morning, right? Like if you adjust base, there are all of these other things that adjust up with it. So what the number we're going to share back with you includes all those automatic adjusts up with it. And if the number that we say, Cam's like, how did you get there? Like, we're happy to talk through all of the multipliers. But I think that's the best way to think about it. Because that number, then your number should closely match ours because we're including, it's like, so what does that do to Percy? What does that do to overtime? What does that do to, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
drum roll.
drum roll, please. So 1% is roughly 500,000.
Okay.
And so that includes the base wage increase, that includes Percy, that includes kind of the cascading impacts based on the individuals in the seats right now.
Yep.
And I think what else we have in there?
Healthcare.
Healthcare.
increase of
So like,
healthcare.
so if you think about the rate stabilization fund, right? So as we're increasing wages, that has an impact.
Yep.
So paramedics, any percentile, right, flows through in that same way.
Perfect. So that's a total benefit. What do you guys call it? Total rewards? The term is.
Total rewards, yes, because total rewards is benefits and fringe, where total compensation really comes back to the cash component. So, yeah, I mean, the answer to your question, if we're including healthcare as well, yes, it's a framework around total rewards.
And as you're thinking about the healthcare piece to that, right? Just remember too that a base wage increase wouldn't impact that, because I know within the health trust CLA, it's a flat dollar amount per year, right? So
PM, but it does affect the rate
rate
stabilization
stabilization,
fund,
right, contribution.
right?
It's a
Because of those two
5%,
components, yeah.
Yeah, perfect.
So that's so that's why we wanted, when we were talking about, it's like, well, if you just do salary, it's like, but that's not the full picture, like the actual total.
Right.
So,
That's,
Yeah.
yeah, cost out of general fund to
Correct.
accommodate you.
Yep. Perfect.
1%, roughly 500,000 annual change. And that's using Questica, all individuals.
Yep.
What a cool system.
I know, it's like crazy,
I think that's pretty
it's
awesome.
really
Yeah.
cool.
All right. So if you're good with it, we will kind of go through some of the questions we have specific to proposals that were either some of them are ours and some of them are yours. But if we can just kind of get some costing potentially applied to some of them. So the first one we wanted to start with was your presentation on the longevity piece.
Okay.
So obviously there would be a shift based on longevity stopping at 25 years. If we could get costing of what that looks like in a
Projected savings.
for the city, yes.
Okay. Yes, we can get that.
Perfect. Then we have, I'm gonna bump Terribly, and that one also. See. Okay, we're gonna roll into the paramedic pay. So this one we already talked about a little bit with the compression conversation. So just a reflection of maybe having that conversation with your team and the potentially Chief Freeman or potentially Chief Hummel. Chief Hummel's here, so maybe that's a good place to go to see if there's any philosophy or interest of trying to manage that compression a little bit, if it makes sense. And then the costing of the proposal in general. So There is an advanced EMT that is now an addition to the system. So what we're trying to do is kind of trying to cost the entire proposal. So there is a savings potential in now we don't have captains that are getting 10%. Those captains are getting 5%.
Yeah.
But we're adding in advanced EMTs. Now, I want to try to make sure that that costing is done under the model of the number of advanced EMTs that Chief Hummel and or Chief Freeman are looking
looking
building
for.
into that
Yep.
model.
Yep.
So that we have kind of a complete picture of what that looks like.
Got it.
Am I missing anything there, guys? I feel like that was, I have this like internal where I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to ask and it's not coming to me right now. So there's opportunity for that to come back in. Let's see here. Vacation accrual. This was the sell down and shifting sell down from the September to, or excuse me.
From November
From
to
November
September.
to September.
Okay.
And obviously there is a cost savings there. So we just wanted to see if you could cost out what you assume that looks like the best of your ability. Okay. Quick. And then this one is not costing, but we wanted to kind of throw it back out there. It was proposed as a the shift duty was a relief shift, theoretically is what it is. So currently we have no forced relief shift. You could work 500 days in a row if you wanted to.
Mhm.
So we would, short of kind of throwing out a counter proposal, we just want to have this consideration that is to see what your team feels about doing a 96-hour. Prior to, one of the big implications that we run into is we do a lot of trading of a 48-hour tour. So we have a normal 48-hour tour that we work, and then a lot of people trade my 48-hour tour for your 48-hour tour in order to be able to manage vacations if they want to take or something to that extent. And the way our system works is that in order to do that, it's either after your 48 or right before your 48. There's
If you're
no-
B, it's either A or C.
Yes, exactly.
Right, yeah.
So that kind of makes sense
Oh,
Yeah.
to our system because we're on a 48-96 schedule to propose being able to do a 96-hour and then have the same language that applies. So if you would take that back to your team and just kind of see how they feel about it. We definitely understand it, and there's a lot of value in this to us as well. We usually do a really good job internally of kind of monitoring to where people aren't doing that. But there is still a potential. So this kind of puts some safeguards on it. And from our perspective as a union, our job is to look out for all benefits, wages, and safety components of our firefighters, right? That's our charge as union officials.
what's the impact when somebody does a trade like that and they're working that 96-hour because they have of course, the 48 and the 48?
Mhm.
What kind of OT is associated in, I mean, is there any impact?
No impact to the city.
So is it
Yes,
if they
they're-
just work their normal shift?
Yes. And that's the way
Because they initiated the trade.
yes, that's the way we
So
have it
it's just
written. It's
straight time.
no cost, no impact to the city.
And I think the intent of that proposal was safety, not pay.
Right.
From our side, so that I would need to talk more with the chiefs about that, because I know that our intent coming to that.
Yeah.
It's not a savings, it's a safety.
Yeah.
Wellness
Yeah.
component, so, okay, let me chat more.
Yeah, yeah.
Happy to follow up on that.
And Stacy, just to kind of answer your question, there's two components to this. I gave you an example of a trade that people do, which is kind of a voluntary and often done on a 48-hour block. There's also the overtime component of it, which is not a trade. That is the city
Like
saying,
callback.
we need you to work. So therefore, we're going to call you back and you're going to work overtime. And that's the city part of it where yes, they're being compensated overtime. That also could happen the next day, that they would be called in, forced back. The odd part about our force back system is we have to try to call people in that are off duty to work, and we go through a list and kind of the system. If it's a summertime, the first 50 people on that list don't answer their phone because they are on vacation with their family. They're in McCall for the weekend. They're not able to come back in. So what happens is we force somebody that is currently working
To hold over.
to hold over because there's no other person there. So there is this safety component that I think has a true reality to it that we don't feel good about people either working too long. But again, we manage it internally very well. But this at least gives good management, but still has enough of a flexibility that it makes sense for our members to.
That's the first time I've understood the nuance between force back and callback. But I thank you. That is
Yeah.
the first time I've fully understood the difference between those two. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. That
Yes,
helps.
you're welcome. So just wanted to kind of throw that out. Just see, where the appetite for that is, see if it's a reasonable. We talk about it in our line of work as like a friendly amendment. Hey, we're trying to get to the same place and we
Yeah.
think this is a great way to get there.
Happy to have that.
Okay, let's see here. So the other, feel like, Cam, did we have the, BLS, ALS in our Trello?
Under the ready present for that staffing.
It's kind of says minimum staffing. I do that every time.
Yeah.
So I keep referring to it as the BLS,
It's kind of
ALS,
putting a little.
and it's called minimum staffing.
Okay, I think that's why we all did like
Like,
confused
where
eyes?
is it?
Minimum staffing. Got
We
it.
are here, we are organized. It's just, my brain.
I'll put a little different title to begin those ones, but we might
Nice.
call it.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll start doing that.
Yeah.
Like different names for things.
So the two,
And that, I just want to make sure I'm like
Yeah.
super clear.
Yeah.
This was currently minimum staffing. We say a captain is required.
mhm,
Our proposal was not having a captain required on a squad.
yes,
Okay,
yes.
I just want, okay, are we all
And-
tracking? We all know what we're talking, okay.
And part of that is this gets a little convoluted, and I think it's great for us to start the conversation here. And I think there could be a lot of value in us just having more fleshed out conversation of definitions, like no negotiations, but trying to just go, hey, let's try to get on the same page with terms and definitions and kind of where we're at. And I'm gonna hopefully be able to explain a little more about what I mean. So we've got it as a proposal for minimum staffing to be basically for all intents and purposes, firefighters, which means they're a lower tier of education and knowledge. It's somebody that is generally newer into the organization that is going to be at that firefighter level. Now, there's some nuance here that there is, well, we want them to at least have taken a road course so that they can drive effectively. And we call it EVOC, an emergency vehicle operations course, so that they can drive running code. So that is part of it. And that is part of our concern, is that we don't want to have two people on an apparatus that are running around the city, and neither of them have ever taken a course on how to drive efficiently. We want at least one of them to have that education to be able to do that. And I think it's mutually beneficial for that to happen. The second piece of that that is really reflective of this proposal is the concept of having what we would consider a captain or an officer. And those two terms are pretty synonymous to be able to use. A captain is really the term that's generally used for somebody that is promoted into that position. An officer is a term that's often used as kind of somebody that has a qualification to do it, but hasn't quite been promoted. And then you get into different organizations that just use them interchangeably. But theoretically, it's somebody that has the education to be the person making the decisions on strategy, tactics, and how to apply knowledge to our community to the best of their ability. And that becomes this somewhat slippery slope based on definitions of what this apparatus is doing. So if it was a fire engine, we would go, no question, we need somebody with a lot of experience as a captain on that. So we have that built into our minimum staffing. Is a fire engine has to be staffed with at minimum one captain, one senior firefighter or WOC senior firefighter, and then one firefighter. So somebody that can perform in each one of those positions or ranks. And we do that because it's extremely important that we have somebody that knows all of those jobs and understands that it limits liability for the city and it provides a service to the citizens that is a level of service that they would expect. In this model here, there's a difference between potentially having what would be kind of considered a BLS apparatus, which would be similar to a two-person ambulance. We're of the impression, Ada County does it, that having two firefighters that have medical skills are totally functional to be able to run around the apparatus and provide assistance to the citizens. They don't necessarily have the decision-making skills. They don't necessarily have the command skills to be able to show up as first person on scene to start building the ICS system, to start building the structure that's needed for a little bit more complex incident. And those incidents are basically anything over your basic medical call. There's a lot more decision-making process that needs to happen. So we're trying to really clarify the definition
talking about
of what squad means and what the goal is of administration in this proposal of BLS and ALS, because that's kind of where this is designed is, hey, here's a BLS apparatus, here's an ALS. Those are both EMS terms that we're going to use, which is the advanced life support and the basic life support. Even advanced life support totally makes sense to have a paramedic, somebody that is of the skill set to be a paramedic on that for advanced life support, and a firefighter that's got an EMT or advanced EMT to be the two people on that apparatus. But if we're now saying that that is called a squad, and we did a squad pilot, so this is also where it gets a little convoluted. We did a squad pilot, and the goal of the squad pilot was, this is a model. We want to kind of model a EMS squad into the city. That EMS squad was proposed to try to incentivize people to want to do it. Like, hey, you get to do all these other cool things that you potentially can be first on scene to a larger incident. Then when we did the model, we said, well, then we need a captain there. Because if they're going to be first on scene, they need to be able to identify hazards, to be able to establish the command system. They need to have a higher level of education expertise in order to do that. So now we're in this weird spot of, are they still doing that? And if they're still doing that, we still have a safety concern that is, we probably want to have somebody of at least swing up captain rank on that apparatus. If it's, no, we're really talking about just BLS and just ALS, and it's not as functional of a unit across the city, then it's a different conversation where we go, okay, we understand what that looks like, and we're way more comfortable with what the proposal is.
Okay.
So all that being said, we're looking to clarify kind of some definitions within that proposal. And we think that would be great to potentially have Chief Hummel in on a conversation we would be happy to do a caucus, potentially with both sides to have some of those defined expectations of what that proposal truly is. Once we do that, then we can bring it back to the table and then be able to go through the right
talk more
negotiation
about it.
process.
Okay. I would love to caucus and make sure this is our like, we're down a truth to rate. I'm pretty confident we have everything we need to talk through that, but I'd love to caucus and just make sure that we're good
Yes.
on it. Yeah, okay.
Are you good with, we'll go through our last one
Oh, please.
and
Yes,
then, because
please.
it's kind of a similar
Yes, please.
conversation.
Yep. And then I would love to do at the end of that, a little action item roundup to make sure I captured everything from before. Great.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the next one is the physical fitness program. And we're kind of in the same situation here, is we're looking for further clarification on what this proposal looks like. So the proposal itself was really focused on, we would like people to go through and have a physical as part of, an annual physical as part of an employment process. So within that, what we feel it lacks is, do we have the capacity? So Dr. Hilbers is our current, what we would call department physician. He currently does, his office currently does all of the physicals for specialty team members and also our entry-level firefighters when they come into the organization. He is limited in capacity. He has theoretically a single office. He has a second office that does some other stuff, but it doesn't do physical. So he really is limited to kind of one location. And it's also, that's not all he does. He is also the physician for the healthcare trust theoretically, and manages not only Boise PD and Boise Fire, but also the majority of the agencies throughout all of southern Idaho. And then he did open an office in Coeur d'Alene area. But he is doing a ton of work. So do we have the capacity is a big part of this question. And I think it's important for us to kind of work through that with this proposal. Number two is, if we are saying there is a mandatory physical, what are the other pieces? What does it look like if somebody doesn't do a physical? Thirdly, what does it look like if somebody fails a physical? So those questions, I think, very similarly to the other proposal, would be great for us to have kind of a caucus session, like a joint caucus session, just for the educational purposes of, let's try to define a little more what this thing looks like, without changing the proposal, just defining what the actual kind of action items are within that proposal. And then be able to, once we've defined them, be able to kind of bring it back to the table and understand where that lies, and then be able to negotiate through the process with it.
And on, it's my understanding on the physicals that this is not uncommon in the fire service. So just planting a seed for future discussion. I think it would be really helpful to understand from your perspectives, like what good looks like. So if there's somewhere that you all are like, hey, like these parameters, these sideboards, this type of process after a physical where maybe an issue is found, like these are comfortable to us. I think that would be really helpful to understand too. Because I think this is one of those, and clearly this is what we're talking about negotiating through, but like that's one of those where it's like, we don't want to throw spaghetti at the wall and be like, are you kidding? Like, that's not at all. So I think that one, it would be really helpful to know. Because like I said, my understanding is this is relatively common. So I'm guessing there's somewhere that has put some guardrails on it that folks have felt comfortable with. So would love to hear more about that.
Yeah, perfect. I I think that is it for us.
Cool.
Do we want to? We're talking about the caucus first, just to check on that. And then come back.
Oh, yeah.
If we want to.
Yeah. May I rattle off the list I think I've got and then do a quick caucus to make sure that there's nothing else? Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay, so starting from this morning, on the career development proposal, we talked about early in the morning and then we came back to it again. But I believe the action and action items on our end is to refine the costing in that career development to something we think is more kind of operationally accurate in terms of like, maybe it's, we'll say 20, I think we agreed on is our model. So go rerun costing on that with kind of an officer academy of 20 as our annual assumption. I think we answered it, but I want to make sure. When we were talking through the AEMT proposal and we were talking about a potential cap, I think we reasoned our way to the original model of 1.8 million is probably more realistic based on perhaps like 60 AEMTs, the cost of that coming down to about 380,000.
Mhm.
Is there more work you'd like done on that, or are we comfortable with that as a?
Just be clarification from.
Yeah, from your side.
Yeah.
If 60 is.
If that's the right number. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We-
we'll keep that as an action item then and clarify.
Perfect.
Okay, we brought Carissa back, so I think we addressed our compression questions on the new career development. And then in terms of requests for next up, you'd like to understand our longevity proposal, the projected savings. You'd like to understand our paramedic AEMT proposal, kind of how we see that compression management happening and the total cost of it.
Definitely.
Understanding our proposal for the vacation sell down, the difference between the November and September dates, approximate cost savings. Really talk about that, the shift break and what a 96-hour would look like as compared to what was drafted in our original proposal. And then we have two potential items for a joint caucus, being the definitions and that minimum staffing for squads and really working through shared understanding and definitions. And then starting to flesh out a little bit more on the physicals. Did I get it?
Nailed it.
If only I had a Trello board. Now I just have notes, but I think I got it. Okay.
Vince?
Nicely done.
All right, that's great. If we could get maybe just another, it's 10:30. If we were back at 10:45, I think we can get the how might we on the joint caucus items,
Mhm.
If that's agreeable to you.
Yes.
Quick break?
Yep.
Okay,
Awesome.
great. So Tammy, Heather, back at 10:45. Thank you. And all right, I have good news.
All right.
We checked with our team back in the back cave. Yeah, and in fact, we would love to take you up on the offer of, may we call it an educational sidebar?
Sounds
On-
great.
The squad definitions and the physicals,
Yes. The physical
Proposal?
fitness. Sounds great.
physical fitness. I knew I was
Yeah.
missing a word. Okay,
Yeah.
there we go. And we are more than happy, I think, if we want to call that a working lunch sidebar, if we want a sidebar and then split off for lunch, like whatever works best for, you let us.
We were prepared and going to do a working lunch anyways today.
Great.
If your team is prepared and comfortable doing the same thing, we would love to just kind of work through lunch and utilize the time and the hours that we
Great.
have. We're
Is that
open,
okay with you?
we're open to, if you want separation for lunch and more caucus time individually.
A little separation option.
At this time, I just feel like we're real close. No, I think we're fine to do working lunch. And then just for those that are joining us virtually, we're, of course, we'll report back out
Yeah.
on where we landed with everything during the sidebar, so we can talk about it, land and agree on our definitions, and then come back and report out after.
All right, that sounds great. And we had a little bit of the prioritization discussion.
Great.
So we have prioritized some of our proposals. And really, we just want to be kind of super clear that our prioritization is focused on timing more so than on value.
Okay,
So we have kind of prioritized the timing of what we feel like we want to spend the most energy working on first.
Okay.
So our highest priority that we have would be the professional development proposal. And then the special team proposal. Really, the professional development proposal we feel is very important. And it's the biggest kind of structural piece that we have to work through of pretty much any proposal that's out there. And I think that it has been proposed and brought forth with parts of it from both sides of the team having a lot of different angles of why things make sense here. I would love to see this get across the finish line, this negotiation, because we have kicked it down the road so many times. It is a pretty big philosophical change of where we are, but it also, to Chief Gervais' point, it has been one of the biggest headaches with the step raise portion of it that we have had to deal with in the organization. So to be able to take some of that out, without throwing it out there too much, the amount of energy that we as the union have to spend and you as the city have to spend on trying to work through those grievances that just continually arise has a ton of value in itself. So love to see that one get through. So that is our kind of highest priority. The specialty team proposal, also just like to kind of share that is such a high priority for our organization as well, because it similarly it's been kicked down the road for 20 years. And it's created kind of a problem where now we look at, well, we're trying to catch up a little bit to where we were, and it makes it a bigger cost when we do that. And so we understand that, but what we don't want to do is then also kick the can down the road again. And the next time that it comes up, now we're 25 years behind the 8 ball. So that one has a pretty high priority for us to put some energy and effort into next. Then below that, we have kind of a high category of work for us. The sick leave proposal, we'd really like to put some energy. Obviously, we have 2 different proposals. We would like to have some of that energy put into, is there a way that we could get to one of the other 2 proposals as being kind of our main proposal that we start to flush out? Does it make sense to kind of go with our proposal and start to flush out numbers there? Does it make sense to go with the city's proposal and kind of start to flush out numbers there? Because we do have 2 distinctly different proposals on. The next high priority that we have is the 401k options, the flexibility and how that 6.2% of Social Security money is able to be applied. Again, we have had a lot of grievances, a lot of discussion on that. So I think this one has a really high value for both sides to be able to eliminate those issues that we have had in the past. And it's the great thing is it's a very nominal, we would call it a no cost. We know there's potentially some administrative costs, if you will, of having to once a year make some movement on a spreadsheet or Quest to cover whatever source we're using.
and I think the outstanding on that are really IRS rules and the legality. Like, I think we concur with you, the cost on that is minimal. I think the way we've thought about it, the administrative burden should not be huge. So I think we are kind of back to that, like, just making sure that we're got our I's dotted and our T's crossed in terms of the retirement vehicles.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And then we also have the wildland deployment and the hazmat deployment as high priorities. Again, our position is solely that both of those are a no cost item. While there is a change to compensation for firefighters, it is a reimbursed compensation from the state on both of those scenarios on how that gets divvied out. The authorization for VL spots language, we have as a high priority. Interestingly,
Is that
that's
is that the 3 hour?
no, that's
No.
the 12th person off on VL.
12%. Okay,
Yeah,
so the calculation
Yeah,
of how
figure that out.
many, okay.
yes.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to the term that we have used. I'm trying to blank on it right now. What's
Authorized strength.
authorized?
Authorized,
Yes.
okay.
I mean, the number of people are the number of people. It's just how and at what point we count them.
Got
And the reason that we're keeping it as a high priority is because right now we are right at that threshold. We have crossed over to the 12th person off. We want to then go, okay, there's no pressure at this point. So let's like just get this
Really
thing ironed
nail
out.
that down. Yeah.
Because we're not going to see this for another, I would assume 5 to 10 years unless we have an extreme growth. So let's lock it down now where there's not a lot of pressure on it of what makes sense, and then it's done.
Okay.
And then we have a high priority, but we're going to we have a high priority on the parental leave that we would like to flesh out. Now we have some ownership in the timing of that. I have reached out to our healthcare trust in order to get some data that would tell us how many people. And what I essentially asked for is a qualified event that has happened, which would be and
Either adoption
or birth.
or,
Yes.
yep.
There's other qualifying events, but I said these are the two qualifying events that I'm looking for, and just a scale over the last 10 years of giving me a number per year. And I really feel like a 10-year was about as much as I could ask for in that.
Oh, yeah.
Initial pushback, a lot of there's no way we can collect that data, to saying we need that data. Please find a way to collect that data for us in order to be able to understand where we're at. So we're in the works, and I think I can have that by the next time that we meet.
Cool.
The fitness compensation, the bilingual pay, the education incentive, and the cell phone, we are at what would be considered like a medium priority timing wise on those things as we get through. And the reality is, anything that is a super easy costing, which I think cell phone reimbursement was the easiest to do out of those, because the other ones have a lot more assumption built in and or just unknowns. We don't know how many people are bilingual and where we would go with that.
Could you rattle those off again, please?
Yes.
Fitness,
Fitness, bilingual, and fitness is kind of the same way. What does that look like? But bilingual, fitness, cell phone, the kind of other, what I call medium to high priority, is the education incentive to be able to help pay for education. And we really feel like what we're looking for is some direction from the city if they are seeing some of the similar value in doing that we are, which I think would help to kind of drive some of that prioritization as well. The fact finding is set at a high priority for us. Again, we're looking at a no cost to that, but still high priority for us. I don't know that there's a lot of calculations, probably just more conversation surrounding that one. Advanced EMT, we have placed at medium priority because we really feel like the model is the city's model. And if you put this in perspective of the sick leave, where we presented a model, city presented a model, we are looking at it going, well, this model is probably the one we want to try to follow and put the energy into. We can default back to the just base advanced EMT model if we can't quite get there, but we want to put our energy into that model. So similar to like the sick leave,
Pick a
we've
model.
each got a model. Let's try to drive one model and just run it through that. Standby pay for day crew, we put it a high priority. And that one it's a pretty nominal because it's just very limited. But what we're trying to do in some of our modeling here, we have this discussion often that getting a contract done, one of the reasons that the specialty team pay has not been addressed, or I wouldn't even say not been addressed, but not been like focused on as much, is because it hits that smaller group of people. And when we go through this contract, our goal is to try to have equity within the contract as a whole. So if we have raises that come out really high for one group of people and everybody else is not looking at that same type of valuation, when it comes time to ratify the contract, you have a lot of people that are dissatisfied with the process. So what we're trying to do is figure out a way to try to group in a lot of the organization with a couple different proposals. Those three proposals are the standby pay. That adjustment hits, I would say, roughly 15% of our population of firefighters. Then the advanced EMT picks up a separate group of individuals within the organization that, again, if we're looking at a model of roughly 60 people, then we're at roughly 20 plus 25, 30% of the organization. And then the specialty team kind of picks up the other portion of the organization. So we're trying to do our best, and we're not at this point, we're not saying these are all tied together, but that's our goal, is to try to keep kind of those three together at the same time. That way we capture multiple parts of the organization and capture the majority of the organization and getting equity through that contract at the same time.
Got it.
And we presented the 4-person staffing language. We have that as a medium priority. Now, I want to make sure that I clarify for safety of firefighters, for the citizens and the community, it's a high priority for us. The reason we're saying that it's a medium priority as far as the work that we're doing is because we do feel like the city has moved in that direction, and we want to recognize that the city has moved in that direction, and we are making progress, which is great for us. So we want to make sure that is kind of put out there. That language was really to try to capture what we talked about earlier, which was just a priority for the city, to maintain it being a priority for the city. That if we have language in the contract, it just adds a little bit of, hey, we have this obligation that is out there. It's up to us, to have flexibility on when and how we fulfill that obligation, but it is there, and we need to know that it's there. That's our goal behind it.
Signaling a shared recognition
Yes.
of
Yes.
importance and.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
But again, we want to make sure that we're being very clear. We absolutely appreciate where the city is moving towards on this. And we're just trying to kind of memorialize a little bit about that there. The 3-hour blocks and BL increase we have at a low priority as far as timing. That really kind of goes into, again, that conversation of value to the city. We really haven't got a lot of feedback yet, which is totally fine. But I feel like we need to get that feedback of where is at least kind of the fire administration on staffing. That's the biggest issue, is it creates a big staffing problem. Do they feel that there's a staffing problem that has significance to be able to make a modification to this? Then we have low priority for the storage of the Union engine.
Okay.
Again, this was a no change theoretically. It's what we have agreed to and been doing. We just wanted to kind of memorialize that in the contract itself. Again, part of the conversation with this was really somewhat of a conversation that we wanted to be able to make sure we were very strong on at a state level with legislation that's being talked about, which is our cities putting taxpayer dollars into unions. And that's, you know, kind of the push we're getting at the state level. What we want to do is we want to be able to say, if something is in the contract, we theoretically are paying for it. We have negotiated that as a benefit to our contract. We have given up potentially wages that we would have been paid in order to have that benefit. So we're trying to establish a stronger conversation at that level. And that's all that we're kind of asking to do. So high priority as far as like, love to get it in there, low priority as far as timing of it. And it's not the end of the world for us if we didn't get it in there. We just feel like it's going to help both sides at the state house level if we're able to kind of get some of those things clearer in a contract. The CPI we still have as a low priority. It was designed as a conversation starter for us of, is this a model that makes sense for the city? It again would be a huge shift in what do negotiations look like and how is that process happening? That shift has value to it. It's pros and cons. There are good and bad about doing it. But with the proposal that we kind of threw out there also helped to mitigate some of those pros and cons where we had a floor and a ceiling, which really brought a little more balance through the budget long term. So that was kind of our goal there. Low priority if we're not ready for it at this contract. If we're just going, hey, it's great, let's really process
Talk
and
more
think
about
about this for a while, then it turns into a low priority for us. We're not pushing extremely hard for it. We just want to have some conversation about what does this look like for all of us. And we have the you say anything that's it. Yeah. Yeah, I think
That
everything
is
else we
very helpful.
talked about already.
Very helpful. Thank you.
Yes.
We may have to have a quick caucus conversation. I know we started with the costing that you all were like top priority, the big ones. I think we do have some of this other prepared, but I don't want to put you on the spot, Justin. We can talk more about where you're like confident here, need some more time there. Because we might even be able to move some of those along this afternoon.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's chat.
I'm not committing Justin to anything right in this moment.
So with that, what if we propose a individual caucus
Okay,
from now until trying to think of us shifting from now until 11:45.
okay,
That would give about a 30-minute individual caucus for some quick discussion, and then we could come together for our information sidebar.
Okay.
Right. And I would just say we take that information sidebar as long as we feel necessary. And then just shoot for coming back and updating where we got to on that information sidebar. And
Great.
then at that point, I think you guys would be able to present anything you felt comfortable presenting, and we can kind of work through that second half of the day.
sounds good.
Great.
All right. So
So to recap everything,
I know, I was like, so are we coming back at 11:45 or are we now moving into
Straight from individual into the.
straight
group.
from individual into our working list?
Yes.
So
Yeah, we have M and
we'll provide an update for those who are logged in I would say we'll assume we will be back no sooner than one-ish, and then we'll provide an update
Let's call it 1:30.
1:30.
Yeah.
Perfect. We just put up a little slide that says return
Yeah,
app,
right.
so I was trying to back into a number that we can at least start with. Yeah, okay,
Let's do
so
that. Yes.
we'll be back no sooner than 1:30.
Yes.
All right, we've had lunch. We have sidebarred. We know where we're at.
Great conversation.
Great conversation. Okay, so for anyone who wondered, we had sandwiches, they were delicious. And just kind of outcome of our educational discussion, it sounds like on the physical fitness exams, there is merit in the city relooking at our proposal and putting some more detail around what the right tests would be for that physical fitness, and really appreciate the discussion back and forth and making sure that we were each using words that we understood. And then I think after that discussion, I think it also makes sense for us to do a revisal of our proposal that goes into more of the process of if a member, if test results came back not where we would want them to be, kind of what would the process be to cure that? And also what would it look like if someone did not want to take that test? So we'd like to take another pass at that now that we have, I think, a better understanding of the various different types of tests out there and that are available. We'd like to go back, study that some more, and potentially revise that proposal. And then on the minimum staffing and the BLS, ALS medical unit, I think we also had some very good clarifying discussion about different types of apparatus. What does squad mean? And so we would, again, city would like to revisit our proposal and look at potentially some rewording, some definitions, or potentially even striking squad altogether. But really appreciated the clarifying questions and the further discussion on what those different terms might mean and how we get clearer so that we all know what we are negotiating or potentially agreeing to.
Yeah.
Anything else from anyone?
No, you summarized well.
Yeah. No, I
Good.
think that's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good note taking. So where shall we go from here?
All right, we are kind of open to if there's any position from the city on any adjustments to proposals, any conversation about some of the proposals. We could kind of also go through just some action items and try to see if we're on the same page of where we think action items are kind of per some proposals that are out there, just so that we have some clarity on kind of where we're going for the next steps moving to the next negotiation.
I would love that. We only have one session next week. So I think I think we should definitely talk about action items on either side, so that we can figure out, do we need that to be a work day? Is that a negotiation day? So I think a recap of action items by proposal would be super helpful.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So let's see here. We have in our action items the contribution language to the health trust. So that one is our action item that we are just waiting from a callback from our attorney.
Will you
Yes.
clarify contribution language to the health trust?
Yes, that is to shift the language out of the CLA that references
yeah,
the
yes.
rate stabilization
Yes,
funds
that's correct. Okay.
into the contract. So, and just to kind of clarify where we're going with that, we want to have a conversation with both our union attorney as well as our trust attorney on that. I have only reached out to the union attorney so far. And the discussion that we really want to have is there an implication of if we move healthcare language out of the contract and move it into the healthcare contract, does that then mean that the healthcare contract in totality does not hold the weight of CLA? So CLA language really has a lot of protection for us under state statute of it has to be negotiated, it has to be negotiated in good faith. My gut instinct is that we still maintain the same protection, even though it's under a different contract, because really the Federal Labor Relations Act has kind of established what are generally accepted practices for negotiations, and healthcare is one of those. So I feel like I know the answer, but I'm not confident enough to make a decision that could put us in a really bad position in the future. I want to have that same conversation with our healthcare trust attorney because he helps to manage that. And that the healthcare trust contract, because we are a self-funded theoretically system, there's a lot of rules and regulation that go into what that contract has to look like and what our healthcare system has to look like. So I want to make sure that we have the ability to then move that language into the healthcare contract and that it still fits within the legal rules of how we have to manage that. So that's on us. We are working on it, but wanted to just kind of recap that as far as an action item. We still have the action item of just our base wage to be able to bring to the city. We really, I think, are getting much closer where our goal was to get costing for most of our items and kind of a generally accepted by both parties number or number of people to be able to then accurately bring back some reasonable proposal of wages and what we think kind of in a combination of some of the other things that we're looking at. So that action item is on us as well. And then we have moving over to the professional development. We have a little bit we did talk for a moment kind of off camera about the professional development, really focused on what the proposal is, and then again trying to just gain some clarification of the intent of that proposal and how we capture the intent of that proposal in CLA language. And a couple of those things we talked about was really task book and that term task book and how we define that. And do we need to define that within the CLA versus do we have the ability to define that kind of somewhere else and say, we're going to use the term here and then we're going to create what that term looks like somewhere outside, like through our geo process. So Chief Hummel was going to work on kind of what some of those task books may look like so that we would have an example and potentially be able to create language that then applied to that. And really, again, that was all just intent definition based conversation that we were having that surrounded where that was. Moving on, we have the special team proposal. That one we presented, we have costing on. So I want to kind of put that in the category of it's in nobody's court yet to really do anything, because I think that gets kind of brought back into the conversation once we start getting our wage and kind of a package proposal put together. So I think both sides, and please correct me if you don't feel the same way, but I think we have looked at that. We theoretically have agreed costing seems accurate. So we're good with what that proposal looks like. And now it'll just be a process of putting that package together and trying to present something. Cam, would you just take a note to create a third column that does that kind of puts it in the middle of there's no action item that it'll be dependent on. Gotcha. Next. Okay, thank you. Sick leave proposal. We have this as we presented our sick leave proposal. We're kind of waiting, and so we consider this being action item of the city.
Yep.
Bring back either your proposal or give us some direction of, hey, we're going to table our proposal and kind of try to drive towards your proposal in the process. That way we just have a direction to work towards.
Great.
So the sick leave we have in that position. The 401k HRA option we have as action item for you in the
Yeah.
legal kind of ramifications of, does that work? Wildland deployments and hazmat we presented, and I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like those were presented. It's a cost kind of outside of the city. I feel like they kind of go in that what would theoretically be the middle column of really either no action or just a counter proposal from the city, if that's what we'd like to look at. So that's the wildland deployment and the hazmat. We've kind of grouped those together theoretically. The authorization for firefighters, that is the 12th person off. We have that as presented and in the city's action item to either counter and present a different idea for what that looks like, or kind of agree to be ready to sign off on that. The fact finding we have as presented and kind of again in the city's action item of where you want to be on accepting / counter proposal through that process. The parental leave is we have presented parental leave, and then we'll just kind of wait for a response on
Great.
parental leave from the city on that one.
Okay.
Clarification on that one. I thought we were gonna rewrite that.
You have to modify it, yeah.
To modify that one.
Okay,
So sorry.
yes,
Nice.
yes.
And I think you
We
were
did.
also looking with your trust on
Yes.
some costing. So I think there was a couple of your action items on that one.
Yeah, so modify the
Yes.
proposal with, and then the cost, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, let's bump that into ours because we are still waiting for costing that we have to get first.
Okay, that tracks.
Advanced EMT has been presented as the base. And I kind of feel like, again, we got the costing for that, the conversation of really no conversation because costing would be accurate if we kept and did not go through with a paramedic and EMT kind of base proposal. So I would also kind of just put that in the middle ground territory if really no action needs to happen. Again, our focus is going to be trying to work with the city's proposal and what that looks like and move that direction. So I think there's no real action that needs to happen unless we get to a point where the city's base proposal is not working. We potentially revert back.
Okay.
Standby pay for day crew, we have presented that. I don't know that there was a costing done on that yet, so I think that
It's an action item on our end. I know.
Yeah.
I think we're meeting with HR next week.
I think it's a pretty smaller comparatively just because a much smaller group of people and a much smaller cost, but I think costing on that is kind of just what we're waiting on. 4-person staffing language, kind of same boat of being presented and ready for a counter on that. The bilingual pay presented, no costing yet. But there's some conversations surrounding, well, what does that look like?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes. So, and we have that is kind of that medium priority that is if we want to make sure and kind of focus that priority list that we gave earlier, that would be great because The reality is, if we get to a point in negotiations that we really start running out of time, we want to make sure that we have focused on those higher priorities first.
Great.
Because that does become a limiting factor sometimes. And often, as we have seen, that we brought back multiple proposals from our last negotiation session. We don't want to let that completely kill our process or stall our process so much because we have potentially overloaded it. And then there's also everything is focused around budget and what makes sense. So yes, we have this in kind of that medium tier. So higher focus on the other things. But it would be just a costing proposal of whatever you think is a relatively good idea of how many people, what it would look like. And I feel for you and trying to figure out what it looks like.
That was gonna be a lot of assumptions.
Yeah, yeah.
Here are the assumptions.
The EIP, we had some discussion that there was potentially a counter proposal for an either or
Education, yeah.
education from our current process, which totally are on board with and agree that that's a very reasonable counter to have. So in your court, and we will stand by. We have the cell phone reimbursement, which we have presented. Again, costing, we agree that the costing was done very appropriately.
Okay.
So I think, again, that's another one of those that's in that medium category. We would love to look at that position for this contract term, but we do want to have the priority on those higher prioritized items.
I think I also have an action item. I owe you some information back on the city's overall where we're at with the phone study.
Yeah,
So that I also have that on my to-do list.
all right. We proposed the getting rid of the 3-hour blocks and getting a kind of a shift of that to a BL increase. So we presented that, and that is in your court as well on where you are, how you feel about it, and if we continue to move forward. Again, contract language for storage of the Union engine, just trying to kind of memorialize what we currently do, but we're waiting for balls in your court again.
Yep.
Fitness compensation, same boat. That is again kind of that medium priority.
That's gym membership, right?
Yes.
Okay.
CPI, cost of living, in your court, low priority for us. We just want some feedback on.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a path that we continue to investigate? Are you super interested? And let's try to tie it into this negotiation, have more conversation. So just some feedback on that.
Okay.
We already talked about the physical fitness. We presented a counter on the days of work to a 96 to be able to do a 48. So it would be a counter back from that. The paramedic, we've already talked about where we are there. Vacation sell down, we're looking for costing.
Costing.
Yep.
Yep.
Longevity, we're looking for costing.
Yep.
And squad staffing, we already discussed and know where we're at there. So that's what I have on my register.
That matches my list. Stacy or Justin?
Just kidding.
I get accused of over talking all the time. Sometimes I have to, I do have
Just
to.
kidding.
But
It's helpful for me though in a wrap up. Like it really is like, okay, are we really clear where each of these items are? That matches my understanding and tracking. So looking at next week, recognizing it is Friday and we are theoretically back on Tuesday. Our team, I think Tuesday would be a good working day again, because there are a lot of action items and I have a hard time believing that we are going to make real substantial progress on that in time for 8 a.m. Tuesday morning. Could we make a target to do another work day on Tuesday and then make it our goal when we come back to the table on the 23rd to fully respond to all items? So whether it's a we owe you costing or we simply owe you a counter
Counter.
proposal or a response, or I think,
Yeah.
I think we're close. And with a work day on Tuesday, we could really come back that next week when, or if we have 2 or 3 sessions that following week, I'll have to look at my calendar.
23rd and 24th.
Okay, Okay. so if we could do another working day next Tuesday, I think then the 23rd and 24th, we could really have thorough costing responses, counter proposals, and actually start into our negotiation packaging.
Mhm.
Is that workable?
Yes,
I think that'd be great.
yes.
Could be
Okay,
2 really good days.
I think yeah, I think it would be. I just am the Friday to Tuesday, I'm like, I'm just not sure how much we can turn around by Tuesday.
Yeah.
And I think if we had that full work day on Tuesday, we could really come back and dig in.
Yeah,
Having Romeo back too, to make sure he has the time to, digest what we talked about today too before. He's back.
Yeah, and some of the ones, the longevity pay, we're pretty confident we understand Romeo's assumptions.
Mhm.
But we're not completely confident. So like there's some of those, I think we do just need Romeo back to be like, hey, we think this is it. Is that really right? So
yeah,
that would give us a day with him to
yes.
flush any of that out.
2 things here that I would like to add and or suggest.
Yes, sir.
Number 1 is if we're doing a work day on the Tuesday, what day is
Tuesday
that?
the 23rd.
No,
Oh, Tuesday the 16th.
16th?
16th, yes. The 16th. If we get any progress and feel comfortable again using our information sharing.
Oh, absolutely.
Especially if they're,
Yes,
if it's
absolutely.
like, hey, we've got
Pre-read.
2 or
Pre-read.
3, kind of
Yeah.
costing done, proposals done, and you
Yeah.
can share them. That gives us the opportunity to be able to kind of simultaneously be working through
Absolutely.
that timeframe,
Absolutely.
which I think would be much more beneficial for progress.
Yeah.
So yeah, feel free to just have some communication about what you think you could drop in there would be super helpful. And then in the spirit of great negotiations, we had a ready to TA. I know we're not TAing anything because Romeo's not here as per our agreement. But we love to have kind of progress. So we, when Romeo is back, are also ready to TA the chief response callback that was proposed by you guys. Really, that's like a
The
column.
Chiefs will be so grateful.
And I'd like to, really be moving some stuff
Moving
over there.
things in there. I
you
really
know.
appreciate that. That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Look at us go.
A good day.
That was a good day.
Yeah.
For Friday.
Take it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I think I absolutely agree to any costing information that we're able to work through Tuesday. We will be in touch and let you know, like, hey, this is in the folder, this is in the folder, that is in the folder.
Yeah,
So
perfect.
definitely agree that we will touch base either at the end of the day on the 16th or the morning of the 17th, just to let you know what's flowing into that shared folder. And then if there's anything more we want or need to discuss headed into those 2 sessions on 23rd, 24th, just let us know.
Okay.
Also, if there are other, I think we made it through most of the costing that we've got out there now, but certainly if you have other questions for Justin as all of this sinks in, or as you're doing your work day on Tuesday, like, let us know as well.
Yeah, perfect.
Great.
Sounds great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, everyone.
Awesome. Yeah,
Another great.
thank you. Yeah. Have a lovely weekend.
Yes.
For those of you that find yourselves weekending.
I'm on call all weekend.